Well, butter forward too with our, even
forward.
black licorice. Yeah.
Do you have a t-shirt that says that? I think I would like one. I eat butter forward. It doesn't really matter what comes afterward. I just want the butter first, please.
I love it.
Sweet cream. I love it. You can make something sweet out of the difficulties life has to offer you by creating that. And let's focus on that word creation. I love it.
Welcome to another episode of Relentlessly Resilient, presented by Minky Couture, where everyday people share their real life experiences and the tools they develop to move forward and live their best life. I'm Michelle Scharf.
And I'm Jennie Taylor, and as always, a huge fan of Minky Blankets. We've told you this before, and we're going to keep telling you each week. We are so proud to have them as our presenting sponsor because they can keep you warm no matter how warm you want to be kept. Do you want to be lightly warm, largely warm, the heavy blanket that kind of weights down on you, the light-weighted blanket that's a little silky and slides right off? You can find any of them in their 6 stores right here in Utah or at minkycouture.com. Okay, Michelle, I love Minky, we know. But I also really love caramel. And today we get to be sponsored by Minky while we talk about caramel. So I just can't think of a better day in the studio.
Are you kidding? I got my Minky Couture blanket on my legs.
And caramel in my mouth.
JulieAnn Caramels as we talk. I'll try to be quiet about it.
We have our new friend from JulieAnn Caramels, but JulieAnn Caramels, it's not JulieAnn, it's our new friend, Rowena Montoya. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you.
Gosh, I just feel so honored to rub shoulders with such great women. So thank you. Yes, I am the owner of JulieAnn Caramels, and you can find our product in local grocery stores, but you can also find it on our website, which is JulieAnnCaramels.com.
Okay, so we're going to jump right in. Before we ask you the resilience question, we've got to talk about the name. Your name's Rowena, but your delicious caramels are JulieAnn's. Is that part of the story we'll get to, or should we just jump to it from the beginning?
No, let's go right in, and I'll tell you the story. So when I was about 15 years old, I actually grew up in Northern California. That's where I'm from.
What part?
San Jose, the Bay Area.
Oh, okay.
So,
a Sacramento girl.
Yes. Well,
San Jose a lot.
I moved, so I had a family of 4, and we just grew up. It was really, really difficult. I mean, my mom was a single mom. My dad would be like, I'm going to come, he'd come stay with us. And then he'd say, I'm going to go get milk. And we wouldn't see him for 6 to 8 months.
Wow.
And so it was just really a tough life. I didn't realize what a family looked like or how they functioned or any of that.
Yeah.
And so she passed away when I was young. When I was like 15, 16 years old.
So young. I'm so sorry.
It was so difficult. I mean, I lived a certain way. Everyone I knew smoked, we drank. It just was such a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Sacramento.
Oh, okay.
And lived with Nancy Ann. So that's where the story comes from. She did a lot with her sister. Her sister's Julie.
Oh, okay.
And so I took their names, and it's Julie's recipe, and put it together and called it JulieAnn.
Oh, my goodness.
And I always tell people, I'm not a product of what I was born into, but someone taking me in and changing my life. And then at the young age of 15, 16 years old, I was able to live 2 lives, right? I was able to live this life and choose which kind of life I wanted to live. And so that's who I am.
And to have the clarity of thinking at 16 to think that. So before we hear that whole story, can you tell us, what does resilience mean to you?
I think resilience means that we can change and be better, and that we can take the hard things that we go through life and learn from them and wait for a better day and create something just a little different. I love to create. I'm a creator. I love taking something, a hairdresser by trade, and just being able to create, whether it's with food or even quilting. I have friends that are all quilters, and so now I'm a quilter. And just, I love to create. And I think we do that with our life. Do you know what I mean? I think that resilience means being able to create, even though you go through the hardest things in life, that you create something different from it.
Okay, I love that. I love how proactive creating is. It's not sitting back and letting something happen to you or be given to you or stumble upon. You're going to proactively create something beautiful and delicious like caramel, or a happy, meaningful, purposeful life.
Right.
Okay.
This all happens after I go through the depression, the anger.
Let's back up then. I want to hear the whole story.
I love that you pointed that out, because even in my own life, like, people would say, you need to move on from that, or it's been a year. Aren't you done with that? Like in relation to my husband's death. I'm 5.5 years out and really accepting what my therapist told me, which is you can't wrap this up in a box. You're not going to wrap it with a nice little bow and just set it there and it's just something that happened.
Check it off the list.
It is going to be a part of you. You're going to walk with this. And in saying that, it's a process, right? It's a process. And sometimes we have to go through things before we're ready and have the space in our heart and mind to be a creator, to decide what is it we want to do.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We have to wrap our minds around it. And then we've got to sit with it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And, as I'm going to be 60 this year, I've gone through a lot of things that have made me think, as people, we are living documents. We change, we evolve, we are becoming what we need to be. And there is a higher creator, may I say, that has a plan for us that's different than what we may plan for ourselves. And we've got to be able to trust in that and be able to facilitate it.
Yeah. I love that.
I love that.
I think Jennie and I can both relate to that. It's like I had a beautiful husband I was married to. Everything was great and happy. And then he got cancer and was taken from me. Jennie is doing her duty to her family, God, her country, and her husband's taken from her. Yeah. These are not the paths that we set out to create.
It's not what we thought we'd
But
encounter.
I think that the strength that comes from both Jennie and I is that we do believe in God, in a higher purpose, and that somebody else is leading the show, and we may not like it all the time.
It's that grace.
In fact, sometimes we really don't like it.
Right. It's that little part of grace, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That we say, okay, this is not what I planned, not what I was thinking would happen to me, but I'm okay with that, because we have to sometimes go back and say, you know what, this was a hard time in my life, but it didn't define me, and I can see all the good that came out of it, and we've got to continue to look for that good. So why I started my company, JulieAnn Caramels, is because about 2009, we had this wonderful life where my husband did really well. He had a great business, and we were able to take these aunts on vacation and do all these great things, adopt a child, take in foreign exchange students, do other service in other countries, all of these great, wonderful things we were able to do. But in 2009, it all came crashing down. We had to sell everything and start all over. I mean, every single thing we had. And I didn't have that opportunity to create what I had created with the wealth that I had.
What was the impotence of that? I mean, looking back in my mind, like 2008 was the year that my husband and I, and by 2009, we were selling everything off.
Right.
Just kind of
but my husband was in construction. Was it that whole bubble thing, or?
So what it was another company. My husband's in the trucking industry.
Oh.
And so he doesn't drive a truck. He's a broker,
Okay.
but he has customers all over the world, actually. And what happened was another company was coming in recruiting his salespeople. He had about 15 of them.
And poaching
They
them.
all sold their book of business and left. And so it wasn't like one left or two left, but all of them left at the same time.
word.
And we just couldn't.
Just collapsed.
We couldn't facilitate it.
Wow.
And so we tried for 3 years to make it continue.
Kind of hobble through.
And I started making caramels because he was able to keep his biggest customer. And I made caramels and traveled with him all over the United States for 2 years. Florida, California, Texas, Kentucky, everywhere. And it was in the rain. We're always outside because it was a big auction company. And so people were like, where can I buy them? And I'm like, you can't.
From me? My kitchen?
Yeah, basically.
So you would just take him to give to people while you're out on the road. More of a
Right.
treat to share.
Correct.
Did you ever in your mind have it as a business venture?
No.
No, it was just a piece of you to share on the road.
Right. I mean,
Like we're
I
going to
felt,
pack up snacks to soccer.
Yeah. Yes. I felt like we needed, I needed to be with him because it was such a difficult
hard time.
And luckily our kids were all raised. We have 5. And so, we were, it was a very, very difficult time for us. And it was hard to wrap our mind around what had just happened. but we
Just all
did.
came
Especially,
tumbling
I mean,
down.
at this point, if you're 60 now, you're in your 40s. You're
Right.
not really looking
Late
at.
You're not 20-something and just getting started.
Right.
Like,
It's
you've been around
we're
the
gonna
block
do
before.
Right.
We got to do this all over again. And anyone that's ever I've built companies with my husband's up a couple of times, my own companies.
So much work.
Such an exhausting job.
It is.
It's a lot of work and a lot of worry.
When you've done it before, you actually know what you're getting into, and it can feel just
you don't have the naivety you might have had at the
overwhelming.
beginning.
I have felt that so much. And so I thought, okay, well, after 2 years, I'm going to start just staying home. And then I started really small at farmers markets. I mean, literally with a pot and a spoon in my basement. That's how I started. And farmers markets. And then I started doing some corporate things and little boutiques. And then at a farmers market, I met a Harmon's buyer, and he said, hey, why don't you try Harmon's? And we did, but then it's UPCs and it's packaging. I mean, it's on and on and on and all these things.
And how do you do it with something that's such a fresh product? Were you nervous about putting it into a store in terms of like the shelf life? Because it's not full of preservatives like some candy I might go pick up at the big box store. It's obviously fresh. It's from the kitchen. It's home, beautifully made.
And
Was that kind of a learning curve to find that balance to where it can have a little bit of shelf stability but not lose?
so we
that
had it
deliciousness?
tested by a food scientist.
Okay.
And they're like, Rowena, it's good for a year. And me going, no, it's not. I did my own testing, and I'm like, I shortened it to 6 months.
Okay.
But yes, it is difficult because we personally go into the stores. We rotate the stuff,
Wow.
rotate the product. I mean, it's its own, venture besides making the product.
Okay, so
Now
let's
we're
back
in-
up. So you're making it in a basement kitchen pot with a wooden spoon, let's say.
Right. And I have a cottage
And then
from the
walk us through
Department
the
of Ag.
different steps of how it's growing and how it's
So
grown.
now
And what
we-
year is this? So in 2009 was everything fell apart.
Right.
When are you kind of maybe starting baby steps at the farmers
So,
markets or some corporate
2012.
gifts? Okay. A
Yeah.
couple years into it.
Yeah, 2012. That's how we started very small. And then I thought, I've got to get this all automated in order to build it.
Yeah,
to
because who's
actually-
we? Who's making them with you? You and some staff? Like, did you have a couple
Yes,
employees?
just a couple employees. Yeah.
You can only
Yes.
boil so much sugar. I mean, you have to very carefully boil sugar.
Yes. And, the thing about caramels that's so odd is that the temperature outside makes a difference.
The
If there's
rain,
humidity in the air. I mean, usually when people make caramels, they're doing it in a clean room. Well, we're a little manufacturer. We can't do that.
What's a clean room? Define. Is that a?
Well, where you control the humidity, you
Oh,
control
okay.
the airflow, you
so
control
it'd be something where you
everything.
can kind of scientifically set the weather,
Correct.
the air to be
Yes,
what
the
you want
larger
it to be.
companies have a consistent product because they have a consistent control of the room that
Of the
they're
barometer, the
correct.
temperature. But you're
I've got to tell you, I love caramels. I've tried to make them, and I'm like, wow, this is really challenging. Number one, I'm not a baker. Number two, I had no idea that every little step makes caramels are actually
Make or break you.
really challenging to make.
They really are.
I had no idea until I
Tried to make 'em.
it out for myself.
I tried to make them one time with a broken thermometer, which I didn't know it was broken. So it never reached the right temperature. So I just kept cooking and cooking and cooking. Then it stays liquid when it's still cooking and cooking. Anyway, it was beyond brittle. I will be buying yours and not making my own. Everyone who knows me knows I am not the cook, but I will make the good purchase. So thank you for
Yeah.
saving me, Rowena.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever tried since.
But you're right. That's exactly right. I mean, everything that you're saying.
So
when you pull
specific.
up a recipe, you don't know if that recipe's from Florida
Yeah.
or, where it's
On a
from.
rainy day in
Right.
Washington
and
State.
So
yeah.
it all matters. So I actually flew Julie in. She taught me how to do it without her thermometer. And then I have shared that with my cook that I have. But we do use thermometers, and sometimes we use two.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're not exactly calibrated correctly. And so we've kind of gotten
I
it
didn't even
down
think about that.
into manufacturing, where now I have machinery. Because I bought one machine, I was like, I'm there. Well,
so
that
you have
machine,
helped automate it. I mean,
yes,
you've
that
gotten it
machine
automated.
didn't work without the other two machines that I needed.
Oh.
But I've had great support from other candy makers that have helped me with buying machinery and using their mechanics, or even machinists where I have to have
Really?
pieces.
So kind of like support even from what would be your competitors,
Yes.
quote unquote. Oh, that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yes, and
Trying to help you be successful in your business because they don't feel threatened in their own.
Correct.
That is a beautiful business model.
I feel like we should all be that way.
Yeah.
because
difference it would make.
there's plenty out there for all of us, you know,
I love that abundant mindset.
and we can help one another. That's not always the picture in the business world,
in the corporate world.
and I don't really love that so much. I hope that I can change it.
So how much candy do you produce? Like, can you quantify? I buy your caramels. They're only a couple bucks. You can't make a ton of money off each individual caramel. So what kind of volume and how far is your spread now to where you're available to purchase it in store?
So if you ask me how many pounds we make a day, is that what you're asking me?
Sure. Yeah.
I would probably say maybe 100 pounds a day.
100 pounds a day.
Maybe even
day after day.
Yeah. Yes. And so that's not very much.
Well, that sounds like a lot to me. I'm thinking like over the course of a year. That's making a lot of caramel.
That it's not more.
Yeah, it
will be.
Yes, because third and fourth quarter are our busiest times
with
of
holidays.
year.
That makes sense.
But what we're doing is we're only doing a fraction of what we can do. So I'm still in the building process of this company and looking for, it takes so much to, it's finance and
I was wondering, to purchase all that equipment is remarkably expensive.
It is.
And to keep it running.
It is, absolutely. And, this last year in December was probably my hardest year that I've ever had.
Tell us about that.
And why it was so hard is I had a gal that I just trusted, and she embezzled money from me. Well, writing herself a check, I feel like, is embezzling money.
I think that's the definition of it.
And then,
so someone within your company.
Yes. And then what happened, the next thing was that my daughter has gone through a horrible custody battle, and it's been really, really difficult. And what I wasn't realizing was that I was being triggered back to my childhood because I was going through all of this. And luckily I've got some really good friends like Aimee Snow who helped.
A previous guest, by the way. We will put a link to her episode in the show notes because Amy's episode was beautiful and powerful.
It really
and
is.
Our first introduction to JulieAnn Caramels in the studio. Side note.
Yes. And it helped me. It helped me deal with, okay, this is not who you are. This is not what this is. And so we worked through that and through the custody evaluation. And I just feel like in the state of Utah, I don't feel like our children are safe here. I feel like there's some things going on with protecting these children from the abusers. And I feel like sometimes they are sent to the abusers because they have rights and they shouldn't. I felt very disqualified as I told my story of what was going on, that they just didn't believe me or listen to me.
That's heartbreaking.
And I also have dealt a lot with the polygamist kids because my oldest son is polygamist.
Oh, wow.
And one of those boys that they just got rid of, but I am telling you that he is exceptional and a professor at a college. So, I mean, he's amazing. And so I feel like somehow, I don't know exactly how, but something's really amiss with what's going on here with children and listening to them.
So you're having a rough personal year with family matters, and then you've got the business embezzlement. That doesn't help. That's all at once.
And then our building got sold, and our rent went from $1,600 to $3,777.
Wow.
So
more
I
than
was
double.
like, I'm done here. I really was feeling like, I don't know how I'm going to make it, And luckily, I had another lady that reached out to me, so we did find another building, but it's still $3,600 a month. And, I've got 10 employees right now. Okay. Usually I can have 15 to 25 employees easily when we get to third and fourth quarter.
When you get into that busy season.
Correct. And so it's been a rough year. Last year was a rough year for me. And I finally feel like we're coming out of it, but there's so many things I want to say. As being a child that has dealt with trauma at a young age and now a 60-year-old woman, JulieAnn Caramels will always fight for the child. It's important to me, and I don't care if it's a grandchild or my children or who it is.
Yeah.
It's very, very important to me. because that's our future.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a beautiful passion to be able to put your love and your experience to help create, again, back to that word, create something better for them.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
I agree. Children are near and dear to my heart. I serve on a board for victims of abuse. And it is hard when sometimes the kids are not being advocated for in a way to really help them heal. And it is important. So it's a beautiful, unfortunate, very near and dear to your heart that you had to maybe endure a lot of that to understand the differences and endure that trauma. But now you're also passionate about supporting those victims and moving forward. How are things going for your daughter in that custody case?
Better than what they were, but still really hard because they're still subject to so much at a young age. And so now what we have to do is give them tools in order to handle the anxiety and all the things that they're told that are not true, simply not true. And that's difficult. And so I'm, again, grateful for Aimee to help us
walk through that. I'd love, if you're willing, I'd love to talk through what are some of those tools that either you're teaching the children or Aimee's helping you learn collectively. We all have children in our minds, whether they're our own children or nieces and nephews or kids at the elementary school down the street. Can we talk about some of those tools? How do we help today's kids when life really is hard? They're growing up in such a different world that just throws so much difficulty at them, even if they're not in a physically abusive environment at home. Odds are they need those tools. They need those tools. What kind of tools can we help them learn?
I think for me, one thing that I always tell them, like we talked about earlier, you must be such a valiant, great person, spirit, that you are given this at such a young age. You get to see different ways of living, different ways of interacting with each other, and reminding them who they are. And you get to choose. This is a choice you make to decide who you want to be. Nobody can control that. It makes me think like you can see people that have come out of such horrific experiences in their life. And why? How do they do that? It's because they looked for something different.
Yeah.
And so I think reminding them, hey, look, nothing defines you. Don't let anything define you. You're in charge.
Don't let life put you in a box.
Yeah. You get to choose how you react to someone or, what that looks like. And it's okay if they say this or they think that. That's fine for them. But let them be them.
Yeah. It's interesting because we can choose to make meaning out of what other people say to us, or we can choose to not allow what people say to make meaning in our lives. But when we experience hard things,
yes,
we can choose to make a positive meaning come from it, or we can choose to allow a negative outcome come from it because we attach a negative meaning to it or a negative meaning about ourselves to it.
Yeah.
And having those little bit of differences to me is what resiliency is about, is choosing to search. Losing my husband, it was senseless, totally senseless how he ended up dead from prostate cancer at 53. He would tell people all the time, dying of an old man disease that old men don't even die from anymore. My dad was diagnosed with it when my husband was, and my dad's fine. He's still with us today. But my young, healthy husband is not. I could have chose to just stay angry about that and just attached to that and just bitter, or I can choose that God has a plan for me and our time was done, and for some purpose, he was done here. My husband's work was done here. God had other plans for me, and perhaps those other plans needed to not include my husband, and I need to just accept that. And it's just making those conscious choices, right? It's just like when you were saying you were 16 years old and you had two separate lives, but you got to live in both life. And I'm sure that that experience in that previous childhood chaos and trauma created a stark contrast to this other lifestyle and life choices, which made it easier to say, well, clearly I want to choose that, right?
Constantly, I think we have to be an example and a hero for someone else, because we go through these hard things, and we've got to be able to share it and be authentic about it and share with our heart.
Yeah.
And so the things that you've gone through and the things that you two both of you are doing today are changing lives. So thank you for that. I mean, you've gone through some hard things.
We're done recording, and we're still chatting with Rowena, and she said some really poignant messages that she wanted to get out, and so we are going to share those with you now. Rowena, what were you telling us?
It's what I've noticed in people sometimes is that when their happily ever after doesn't work out in the way that they think that it should, that means every value, every belief that they had is all a lie. And for me, I mean, I could have said those same things, but at the end of the day, we have to hold on to our value and belief system. And it doesn't mean that it's a lie. It means that other people have the chance to make different choices. They have that opportunity to live whatever way they want to. It's not our responsibility to judge our lives or lose our lives because of someone else's choices.
Right.
We have to stay firm in our beliefs and values and say, you know what? Sometimes that's all we have.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I was raised missionary Baptist, and then I joined the LDS church, and I was in a faith crisis during that process of losing my husband, which is a horrible time to have everything hit all at once. And for me, it caused me for a while to wonder and question if there even is a God.
My word, I felt like that a
Forgive
million.
religion completely.
Right.
I didn't care about that. I was now, am I alone in this entire world and this entire experience on my own? And is there truly nobody there? And for me, I had a profound experience with God. Now that experience allowed me, or I felt like gave me space or permission to really forego religion. So for me, I've chosen to not worry about the organized religion, but I have deepened my relationship with my Creator personally. And that has been an amazing journey.
I love that.
So I just spoke the other day at a conference on grief, and it was faith-based, Christian faith-based, and I talked about, we joked that it was like Sesame Street, and today was brought to you by the letter G and the number 4. And I just shared 4 G's of grief, and one of them was gospel gut check. And I think grief, not only death, but anytime something goes wrong or hard or difficult, there is kind of that gut check of what do I really believe about God, let alone a church or a religion, but where am I with God? Where is He with me? And I love that you mentioned a few minutes ago when we asked you what tools are we trying to teach children, can we teach children? You really came down to teaching them who they are in relation to that Creator, whatever they call Him and however they worship Him or whatever that being is for them. But such an important thing, and to be able to come away with your own convictions that maybe look differently than they used to. But that, for me, that's that gospel gut check that you've kind of got to hang on tight. What do I believe? Are my beliefs mine? Were they only someone else's? Did I feel coerced to believe that and it wasn't ever really mine, or what? But to not necessarily throw everything away because someone let you down, someone got in the way, someone absolutely violated everything you hold true and dear and meaningful. But yeah.
It's really interesting. I have to say, so many times I'm like, it would just be so much easier if I could have just held true to all of that, because there's so much that comes with whatever your religion is. There's a community that comes with that and a support. And for me, I lost all of that along with my husband, along with my children moved away, like so many things. And I was so disconnected in so many ways. I could not have done it without having a personal experience with God. And so, you know, I really feel for people who are in those situations. It's also probably why, you know, a lot of people being, I'm technically still a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So many people will leave the church, but they can't leave it alone, whatever. For me, I chose the church, and for me, I chose to not participate any longer. Very different experience, right? And I love people that have a great clinging to their faith in whatever it is, because there's some security that comes around with that I kind of wish that I had, but I just don't have that for any faith organized base. And it works for me. I'm not suggesting it for anyone else.
But I love that you said that you have a relationship with God. And and I think if we all had a relationship with God, then it wouldn't matter what religion you are, because that relationship will lead and guide you to become a better person, to do the right thing, even if you don't want to do it, even if it's so hard. I mean, even if it involves just getting out of bed or just breathing or whatever it may be, you know, we all have to have that relationship. I don't really care what religion you are. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the good things that you do here while you're here, that you choose to do, and the good things that you create will bring you more joy and happiness than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad that we snuck this in.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming on.
I keep going back to that word create. You know, and we've mentioned God, who you could call a creator, you know, created life, created us. And I think he will join us in creating beauty, even out of the most awful. But I do think it takes proactive effort. Again, we could all sit back and, Michelle, you're right. We could be bitter. We could be angry. We could statistically just fall into what the sociology book says is most likely to happen after abuse, after death, after cancer. Or we can realize that as members of the human race, we have the capacity to create
and change people's lives. Somebody did that for me. I was able to do that for somebody else. And, you know.
And it was through caramels. Yeah. What is sweeter than that?
Yeah, 40 different flavors. We puree real fruit into it. They're different and unique.
I know. I got your mixed
40 different
bag.
Flavors. Okay, now you have my
pineapple. Oh yeah, I got the mixed bag.
I was already
she
on
has
the
a sampler pack that you can purchase.
Yeah, we've won awards in Manhattan for pineapple habanero.
Yeah, that was really good.
And maple bacon made with pancetta from Boar's Head. I love really good ingredients. So, you know, grade B maple we cook into it. And
I haven't had that one.
I know. It's the funnest thing. We just do all kinds of fun things with caramel. And then, you know, we can take our cinnamon caramel and cover it in an apple. Or we can take, you know, there's just, or even those Rice Krispie treats, any flavor we can do.
I have to interrupt right now. If you are listening and you have not tried a JulieAnn Caramel Rice Krispie treat, you've got to pause, hit stop on this right now, get rid of the laundry, tell the corporate executives you'll come back to the meeting in a minute. I'm sorry, you have to go get online right now, JulieAnnCaramels.com.
Yep.
The Rice Krispie treat. So imagine a Rice Krispie treat, just a really good soft Rice Krispie treat with the crunch of the Rice Krispies that's somehow infused with the most delicious caramel in the world and maybe with a pinch of sea salt. Like it's heaven. When I first had the first bite of one, I thought something cannot possibly taste this good. Like food cannot possibly taste this good, and yet it did. So
I love that when we were talking about it before the show, you said it's butter forward. And finally in my brain, it was like, yes, that's what I'm tasting. It is incredible. Yeah. It's this buttery, your first bite is like a little bit of buttery heaven, and then you get a little bit salt and then the sweet. And it is a beautiful thing. I'm really such a foodie. one of the reasons I love Thai food is some of their dishes, you taste in almost a 7-stage experience, right?
Right. It rolls over your tongue and
it rolls over your tongue, goes down into your throat. You can feel it warm in your chest and warm in your stomach. Like
you can savor
I
it.
can love that for that reason. But this particular Rice Krispie treat is beyond.
It is.
I mean, it is beyond any Rice Krispie treat you've ever tasted.
You can enjoy it even with, you've got a variety of dietary allergy issues,
wheat and soy. She uses a dark chocolate. I think this actually has some milk chocolate on it, but
we try to just keep everything
very natural, very real, very fresh ingredients.
Yeah. In fact, I'm working with the Harmon's dietitian, if you can imagine that. And I was thinking, okay, but she said, Rowena, but you're using cane sugar. You use a local dairy with your cream. You're using real butter. She's like, we love wonderful treats, and it's nice to know that they have real ingredients in it, things that we have in our cupboard, and we know what they are. So.
Well, and they're locally sourced. We know where they come from too. So you're in different stores here. We're kind of in the Wasatch Front in Utah, but if someone's listening from somewhere else, you can ship to anywhere. Right?
We can ship service. Yes. And then we do sell to about probably about 50 other stores outside of Utah.
Okay.
So just like
still packaged as JulieAnn's. Do you have any that are labeled as anything else?
No. Nope,
just
not right now.
Label. Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, they are so good. If you have not had the chance to try them, you've got to go and try them.
You've got to try them.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. And I hope that gives you a good idea of who we are and what we do. And, we love what we do. And we have a manufacturing plant. And literally I started with just an idea.
It started with an idea and a lot of hard work and determination to create. So let's talk about how that can come back to this idea of resilience, right? In resilience, we're not going to make excuses. You're going to find a way to push through. You're going to involve and uplift other people. And like you said, you run into that one employee that's going to try to take things down from the inside. There's still awful hiccups along the way when you're creating something beautiful, but you don't quit.
That's right.
You didn't give up. You could have just said, that's it, I'm out of here. I've been betrayed. And you could have folded the cards and said, I'm done. But instead, here we are. You're continuing. Even in the off season, you're employing these people. You're keeping things going. And then you're busy. Holiday season comes up. So do you hire seasonal help?
We do.
And just kind of ebb and flow based on the demand?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
That makes sense.
We have a solid crew of everyday workers that we use, and then we'll add a swing shift or a night shift.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
one plant. You've got one factory to make all this that's everywhere.
Yeah.
Wow. And where are you physically located?
We are in Sandy right now.
Okay.
But we will be moving to Bluffdale. That's where we'll be, and we can do a lot more. So
and that's looking to grow. Are you looking to grow and expand?
Yes, we need to grow. We need to expand, and we need to share the story of what we are and who we are.
Yeah.
Because I think it's just so important that people understand that, even though there's hardships, you can make something sweet out of it.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I absolutely love that.
Something delicious can from something difficult. And I really appreciate
that you brought in the whole business side of it, and also that you're a woman. So many women sometimes get so invested in gatekeeping or not collaborating with other women.
Super
not
competitive
working.
And cutthroat.
It's more cutthroat than men.
I really dislike that.
Mm-hmm,
I have people calling me that are toffee makers or whatever they're doing. I'm like, hey, yes, here's what we do. Even men that are chip makers. Hey, yeah, we've got tables. Do you need a table, or can I help you, or can I introduce you to a buyer? I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but
but you're willing to collaborate and be. I love, like you said, Michelle, that abundant mindset.
Yeah.
Do you have an ice cream topping caramel?
We've been working on one.
Okay, let me know when that's available. I'm just in the market. That's all.
You can just kind of take ours and melt them down with a little bit of cream in the microwave for 10 seconds.
And pretty much it is in ours. Or I could skip the ice cream and just eat the caramel. Because really the only reason I ever have ice cream is to carry the caramel. I'm not a huge ice cream eater. I love caramel. Anyone that's known me long enough to know me at all knows caramel is...
Do you love black licorice?
No.
Oh, then you'd hate it.
Oh,
I love it, but I can't eat it anymore because it all has wheat in it.
But I will tell you, do you know who
mine doesn't have wheat in it.
What?
My black licorice does not have wheat.
Does it have soy in it?
No.
What?
None of
Michelle's
my
the
caramels
happiest
do.
of her life. Get online right now, Michelle. JulieAnnCaramels.com.
So here's what I do.
Okay.
I always melt them down in the microwave, and then I get the very best vanilla bean ice cream,
Ooh.
and I put it over that, the licorice caramel, and it is my favorite. The licorice caramel is one that I carry in my purse. I just love
I think I maybe can do licorice caramel. So it's funny that you say black licorice, because if Brent were here, God bless his soul, he would point out it's just licorice. There's no such thing as red licorice. Regular licorice is the black kind. And he loved it. And I will admit, maybe I need to try it again. In my younger years, I did not like it. It was very bitter to me. But now that you mentioned the idea of a licorice caramel, I think I have had a licorice caramel, maybe one of yours, and I actually did enjoy it. And that surprised me, because I think of licorice, he would usually have just whatever cheap candy you could
Wally's,
buy
probably.
that wasn't the same level.
Love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Miss it.
Well, butter forward too with our,
Butter
even
forward.
black licorice. Yeah.
Do you have a T-shirt that says that? I think I would like one. I eat butter forward. It doesn't really matter what comes afterward. I just want the butter first, please.
I love it.
Sweet cream, I love it. You can make something sweet out of the difficulties life has to offer you by creating that. And let's focus on that word, creation. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I almost said thank you, Julianne. I mean, thank you, Rowena.
I love that name, so I always answer to it. So
I'm
no
sure
problem.
I'm sure people call you Julianne.
I love that.
And what a sweet tribute to Julie and Nancy Ann. What you've done, and that you've taken it with their namesake, that you didn't run. You could have called it Rowena's. You absolutely could have. But to put it to those two women who came along at such a crucial time in your difficult childhood, I think that's beautiful too. Even
Such
the
great
name.
dedication.
Even the name. Yeah.
They're-
So humble,
in the name
so
itself,
thoughtful. Yeah.
And they've just helped me through so many things in life. I've always had to reach back and go, you know what? This is
Are
hard.
they still with you?
They are.
Oh, wow.
that's beautiful.
But
Amazing.
You can make it through.
Yeah.
If possible, we need a picture of Nancy Ann and Julie for the show notes, because I think that'd be fun
that'd
to
be
see.
great. We could add it to our media.
Yeah.
Well, if you
What
like
a
what
day.
you've heard today,
Go order some caramel.
you go order your caramels, or you can subscribe for free to our podcast. And if you like what you heard, please give us a rating and a review. It really helps us in the search bar for podcasts. If you know someone who has lived a story that has been hard or challenging or difficult, and you see bits of resilience in that story, have them reach out to us. You can find us on Facebook or Instagram at Relentlessly Resilient, and check the little box and set up a calendar appointment, 15 minutes on the phone. We'll see if it's a good fit for the show, and we'd love to have you on as our guest. Thank you today to Kellyanne Halverson, our producer. She is amazing. And also to Rowena and her little gift bags that we received today, full of amazing little treats that probably are going to be eaten way too fast.
Far before we get home, that's for sure.
Thank you so much for being on. We appreciate you. And thank you to Miki Couture, our sponsor.
And remember,